Assalamu Alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and hello everyone. Today, I want to share about what are the possible resulting events in academic failure, part 3. Right, possible resulting events. For today's video, I'm going to show you another process that we found. So for my research, we found not just the general process of academic failure, but we've also found another process. Okay, now let's have a look here. First, it begins with the lack of engagement in learning before teaching and learning session, which leads to lack of engagement in learning during teaching and learning sessions. And this leads to two events. First one is lack of engagement in learning after teaching and learning sessions, which is ineffective learning methods. And lastly, lack of engagement in learning after teaching and learning sessions, which is in effective attitudes towards learning. So if you look here, these four categories, this is actually the process of lack of engagement in teaching and learning session. Alright, so since today's video is about part 3 of possible resulting events, for those of you who haven't watched my previous videos, please have a go, alright? Please view my video on part 1 and part 2 on the possible resulting events in academic failure so that you can know roughly in general what are the possible resulting events. And then for the lack of engagement in learning before teaching learning sessions, I've already elaborated on it during part 2. So please watch the first two parts before you continue with today's video. Alright, let's talk about lack of engagement in learning during teaching and learning sessions. For my study, we actually found that there is a link, a connection between lack of engagement before to lack of engagement during teaching and learning sessions. For example, for students who have no or poor preparation before attending their lectures, it actually causing them to be unable to concentrate during their lectures. That's the first one. And the second example is some students excessively engage in extracurricular or leisure activities, which leads to them being tired and consequently they slept during lectures. So we can see that there is a connection between lack of engagement before and lack of engagement during teaching and learning sessions. Okay, I've just shown you what are the connection, but now I'm going to share you what are other examples of lack of engagement in learning during teaching and learning sessions. First one, some students did not concentrate during lectures. Second, some simply sit and listen during lectures. Third, some slept during lectures. Fourth, some students participated less in group discussion. Fifth, some students were late for lectures. Sixth, some students did not jot down notes during lectures. And lastly, some students was unable to concentrate while learning during lectures due to their personal issues. For example, maybe they were having a family or financial issue. And from my research, we actually see that students are using passive learning. So if you see the picture of a chicken here, alright, this is just example. Okay, so there are three examples of passive learning, meaning students were not active during their learning. They were being passive, just sit there. And the examples are when the students simply sit and listen during lectures, they participated less in discussion, or they did not jot down any notes during lectures. So these are examples of passive learning. And if you see the picture of koala here, there's a relation. Remember, tiredness, one of the possible resulting events, leads to the lack of engagement in learning during teaching and learning session, which we can see here, where students slept during lectures or they were being late in attending the lectures. Second, lack of engagement in learning after teaching and learning sessions in effective learning methods. So there are many examples. The first one is students did not revise after lectures. Second, they simply read lecture notes without comprehending them. Third, they did not address poorly understood content. They neglected their studies. They heavily relied on lecture notes. They were unable to revise all lecture notes, focus on memorization, and lastly, they did not study till the last 1 week before exam, or in short, study last minute. Okay, then I put star icon, which means these are what being done by majority of the students. Okay, if you see here in star means these are what actually being done by majority of the struggling students. And when they do this, actually there are also some consequences. For example, if you did not revise after lectures, for sure you will not remember what has been taught, the new material, the new content that you've just learned. And for those students who simply read lecture notes without trying to understand them, for sure you will have more unanswered doubts. And it will be hard for you to actually apply it in practical, in real life. And for some students who did not address poorly understood content, we actually saw two patterns. First, some students did put some efforts to address, but then they gave up because it's too much for them. While some other group of students, they put no efforts at all in addressing their poorly understood content. And for neglecting their studies, we found that some students prioritized on one subject while they procrastinated to learn other subjects. And some other actually spent time on leisure activities, so that's why they neglected their studies. And for studying last minute, we found that these students are actually used to last minute study, and because this is their previous learning method that worked for their pre-university education, that's why they continue doing so in the medical school. And finally, lack of engagement in learning after teaching and learning sessions, which is ineffective attitudes toward learning. Examples, okay, there are examples include these students studied according to mood, being selective on what to study. They thought they could study everything once and memorize all of them. Some studied content that is deemed to be important to them, and while some other did not have the discipline to manage time. So from here we can see that ineffective attitudes toward learning can also lead to ineffective learning methods. And that's all for today. If you have any questions or you want to share what you've learned from my topic today, feel free to comment in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video.